Parsha 15, Bo, which means to go. Exodus 10:1 through 13:16. Adonai said to Moshe, "Go to Pharaoh, for I have made him and his servants hard-hearted, so that I can demonstrate these signs of mine among them, so that you can tell your son and grandson about what I did to Egypt, about my signs that I demonstrated among them, so that you will all know that I am Adonai." Moshe and Aaron went into Pharaoh and said to him, "Here is what Adonai, God of the Hebrews, says. How much longer will you refuse to submit to me? Let my people go, so that they can worship me. Otherwise, if you refuse to let my people go, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your territory. One won't be able to see the ground, so completely will the locusts cover it. They will eat everything you still have that escaped the hail, including every tree you have growing in the field. They will fill your houses and those of your servants and all of the Egyptians. It will be like nothing your father or fathers have ever seen since the day they were born until today." Then he turned his back and left. Pharaoh's servant said to him, "How much longer must this fellow be a snare for us? Let the people go and worship Adonai their God. Don't you understand yet that Egypt is being destroyed?" So Moshe and Aaron were brought to Pharaoh again, and he said to them, "Go worship Adonai your God." "But who exactly is going?" Moshe answered, "We will go with our young and our old, our sons, our daughters, and we will go with our flocks and herds, for we must celebrate a feast to Adonai." Pharaoh said to them, "Adonai certainly will be with you if I ever let you go with your children. It's clear that you are up to no good. Nothing doing. Just the men among you may go and worship Adonai. That's what you want, isn't it?" And they were driven out of Pharaoh's presence. Adonai said to Moshe, "Reach out your hand over the land of Egypt, so that locusts will invade the land and eat every plant that the hail has left." Moshe reached out his staff over the land of Egypt, and Adonai caused an east wind to blow on the land all day and all night, and in the morning the east wind brought the locust. The locust went up over all the land of Egypt and settled throughout Egypt's territory. It was an invasion more severe than there had ever been before, and will ever be again. They completely covered the ground, so that the ground looked black. They ate every plant growing on the ground, and all the fruit trees left by the hail. Not one green thing remained, not a tree and not a plant in the field, in all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh hurried to summon Moshe and Aaron and said, "I have sinned against Adonai your God and against you. Now therefore please forgive my sin, just this once, and intercede with Adonai your God, so that he will at least take away from me this deadly plague." He went out from Pharaoh and interceded with Adonai. Adonai reversed the wind and made it blow very strongly from the west. It took up the locusts and drove them into the sea of Suf. Not one locust remained on Egyptian soil. And Adonai made Pharaoh hard-hearted, and he didn't let the people of Israel go. Adonai said to Moshe, "Reach out your hand toward the sky, and there will be darkness over the land of Egypt, darkness so thick it can be felt." Moshe reached out his hand toward the sky, and there was a thick darkness on the entire land of Egypt for 3 days. People couldn't see each other, and no one went anywhere for 3 days. But all the people of Israel had light in their homes. Pharaoh summoned Moshe and said, "Go worship Adonai. Only leave your flocks and herds behind. Your children may go with you." And Moshe answered, "You must also see to it that we have sacrifices and burnt offerings, so we can sacrifice to Adonai our God. Our livestock will also go with us. Not a hoof will be left behind, because we must choose some of them to worship Adonai our God, and we don't know which ones we will need to worship Adonai until we get there." But Adonai made Pharaoh's heart hard-hearted, and he would not let them go. Pharaoh said to them, "Get away from me, and you had better not see my face again, because the day you see my face, you will die." Moshe answered, "Well spoken. I will see your face no more." Adonai said to Moshe, "I'm going to bring still one more plague on Pharaoh and Egypt, and after that he will let you leave here. And when he does let you go, he will throw you out completely. Now tell the people that every man is to ask his neighbor and every woman her neighbor for gold and silver jewelry." Adonai made the Egyptians favorably disposed toward the people. Moreover, Moshe was regarded by Pharaoh's servants and the people as a very great man in the land of Egypt. Moshe said, "Here is what Adonai says. About midnight I will go out into Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt will die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh sitting on his throne to the firstborn of the slave girl on the handmill, and all the firstborn of the livestock. There will be a horrendous wailing wailing throughout all the land of Egypt. There has never been another like it, and there never will be again. But not even a dog's growl will be heard against any of the people of Israel, neither against the people nor against animals. In this way you will realize that Adonai distinguishes between Egyptians and Israel. All your servants will come down to me, prostrate themselves before me, and say, Get out, you and all the people who follow you, and after that I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in the heat of anger. Adonai said to Moshe, Pharaoh will not listen to you, so that still more of my wonders will be shown in the land of Egypt. Moshe and Aaron did all the wonders before Pharaoh, but Adonai had made Pharaoh hard-hearted, and he didn't let the people of Israel leave his land. Adonai spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt. He said, You are to begin your calendar with this month. It will be the first month of the year for you. Speak to all the assemblies of Israel and say, On the 10th day of this month, each man is to take a lamb or kid for his family, one per household, except if the household is too small for a whole lamb or kid. Then he and his next-door neighbor should share one, dividing it in proportion to the number of people eating it. Your animal must be without defect, a male in its first year, and you may choose it from either the sheep or the goats. You are to keep it until the 14th day of the month, and then the entire assembly of the community of Israel will slaughter it at dusk. They are to take some of the blood and smear it on the two sides and the top of the doorframe at the entrance of the house in which they eat it. That night they are to eat the meat roasted in the fire. They are to eat it with matzah and maror. Don't eat it raw or boiled, but roasted in the fire, with its head, the lower parts of its legs, and its inner organs. Let nothing of it remain until morning. If any of it does remain, burn it up completely. Here is how you are to eat it, with your belt fastened, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you are to eat it hurriedly. It is Adonai's Passover. For that night I will pass through the land of Egypt, and kill all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both men and animals, and I will execute judgment against all the gods of Egypt. I am Adonai. The blood will serve you as a sign, marking the houses with where you are, and when I see the blood I will pass over you, and when I strike the land of Egypt the death blow will not strike you. This will be a day for you to remember and to celebrate as a festival to Adonai. From generation to generation you are to celebrate it by a perpetual regulation. For 7 days you are to eat matzah. On the first day remove the leaven from your houses, for whoever eats hamatz, leavened bread, from the first to the 7th day is to be cut off from Israel. On the 1st and the 7th days you are to have an assembly set aside for God. On those days no work is to be done, except what each must do to prepare his food. You may do only that. You are to observe the festival of matzah, for on this very day I brought your divisions out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you are to observe this day from generation to generation by a perpetual regulation. From the evening of the 14th day of the first month until the evening of the 21st day you are to eat matzah. During those 7 days no leaven is to be found in your houses. Whoever eats food with hametz in it is to be cut off from the community of Israel. It doesn't matter whether he is a foreigner or a citizen of the land. Eat nothing with hametz in it. Wherever you live, eat matzah. When Moshe called for all the leaders of Israel and said, Select and take lambs for your family, and slaughter the Pesach lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop leaves, and dip it in the blood which is in the basin, and smear it on two sides and the top of the doorframe. Then none of you is to go out the door of his house until morning, for Adonai will pass through to kill the Egyptians. But when he sees the blood on the top and the two sides, Adonai will pass over the door, and will not allow the slaughterer to enter your house and kill you. You are to observe this as a law, you and your descendants forever. And when you come to the land which Adonai will give you, as he promised, you are to observe this ceremony. And when your children ask, What do you mean by this ceremony? Say, It is the sacrifice of Adonai's Pesach, because Adonai passed over the houses of the people of Israel in Egypt, when he killed the Egyptians but spared our houses. The people of Israel bowed their heads and worshipped. Then the people of Israel went and did as Adonai had ordered, Moshe and Aaron, and that is what they did. At midnight Adonai killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh sitting on his throne, to the firstborn of the prisoner in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the livestock. Pharaoh got up in the night, he, all his servants, and all the Egyptians, and there was a horrendous wailing in Egypt, for there wasn't a single house without someone dead in it. He summoned Moshe and Aaron by night, and said, Up, and leave my people, both you and the people of Israel, and go. Serve Adonai as you said. Take both your flocks and your herds, as you said, and get out of here. Bless me too. The Egyptians pressed to send people out of the land quickly, because they said, Otherwise we'll all be dead. The people took their dough before it had become leavened, wrapped their kneading bowls in their claws on their shoulders. The people of Israel had done what Moshe had said, and they had asked the Egyptians to give them silver and gold, jewelry and clothing. And Adonai had made the Egyptians so favorably disposed toward the people that when they left them have whatever they let them have whatever they requested. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. The people of Israel traveled from Ramses to Sukkot, some 600,000 men on foot, not counting children. A mixed crowd also went up with them, as well as livestock in large numbers, both flocks and herds. They baked matzah loaves from the dough they had brought out of Egypt, and since it was unleavened, because they had been driven out of Egypt without time to prepare supplies for themselves. The time of the people of Israel lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of 430 years, to the day, all the divisions of Adonai left the land of Egypt. This was the night when Adonai kept vigil to bring them out of the land of Egypt, and this same night continues to be the night when Adonai keeps vigil for all the people of Israel throughout all their generations. Adonai said to Moshe and Aaron, This is the regulation for the Pesach lamb. No foreigner is to eat it, but if anyone has a slave he bought for money, when you have circumcised him, he may eat it. Neither a traveler nor a hired servant may eat it. It is to be eaten in one house. You are not to take any of the meat outside the house, and you are not to break any of its bones. The whole community of Israel is to keep it. If a foreigner staying with you wants to observe Adonai's Pesach, all his males must be circumcised. Then he may take part and observe it. He will be like a citizen of the land, but no uncircumcised person is to eat it. The same teaching is to apply equally to the citizens and to the foreigner living among you. All the people of Israel did just as Adonai had ordered Moshe and Aaron. On that very day Adonai brought the people of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their divisions. Adonai said to Moshe, Set aside for me all the firstborn, whatever is from the womb among the people of Israel, both the animals and of animals belongs to me. Moshe said to the people, Remember this day on which you left Egypt, the abode of slavery, because Adonai, by the strength of his hand, has brought you out of this place. Do not eat hamatz. You are leaving today in the month of Aviv, when the Adonai brings you into the land of the Canaanite, Hittite, Amorite, Hivite, Yebusi, which he swore to your ancestors to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey. You are to observe this ceremony in this month. For 7 days you are to eat matzah, and on the 7th day it is to be a festival for Adonai. Matzah is to be eaten throughout the 7 days. Neither hamatz nor leavening agents are to be seen with you throughout your territory. On that day you are to tell your son, It is because of what Adonai did for me when I left Egypt. Moreover, it will serve you as a sign on your hand and as a reminder between your eyes, so that Adonai's Torah may be on your lips. Because with a strong hand Adonai brought you out of Egypt. Therefore you are to observe this regulation at its proper time year after year, when Adonai brings you into the land of the Canaanite, as he swore to you and your ancestors, and gives it to you. You are to set apart for Adonai everything that is firstborn from the womb. Every firstborn male animal will belong to Adonai. Every firstborn from a donkey you are to redeem with a lamb, but if you choose not to redeem it, you must break its neck. But the people you are to redeem every firstborn son. When at some future time your son asks, What is this? Then say, With a strong hand Adonai brought us out of Egypt, out of the abode of slavery. When Pharaoh was unwilling to let us go, Adonai killed all the firstborn males of the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of humans and the firstborn of animals. This is why I sacrifice to Adonai any male that is firstborn from the womb of an animal, but all the firstborn of my sons I redeem. This will serve as a sign on your hand and on the front of your headband around your forehead, that with a strong hand Adonai brought us out of Egypt.